Whenever you're ready.
You gotta say.
Action.
Thank you, sir. Hey everybody, this is Brennan Edwards, your tech specialist from the Curse of Akakor, and today we're gonna be talking about the things needed to survive in the jungle. Now obviously I spent a lot of time in the jungle, so I'm never gonna claim to be an expert of surviving in the jungle, but I can say that I did do it. So I'm gonna teach you guys the tips and tricks that I had to use to be able to be okay while I was out there. All right, so the first thing is something I actually learned a lot from one of my cast members, Megan Hines. She wrote an entire book about it. You should check it out. And it's about the mentality of being tough and be able to survive, like survivor's mentality, and what it's like to be out there. For me, it was very difficult because it was a whole new mentality that I had to be taught, is that every single thing, every motion you do when you're moving through space has to be thought about ahead of time. You can't just walk through the jungle and not pay attention to what's around you, because there's so many things that could end up being dangerous for you. So for every single step that you take, you need to look at the placement of your foot and where that foot is going. For every time you put your hand on a branch, on a tree, on a leaf, or anything like that, or walk by and brush anything, you need to be paying attention and watching every single thing, because there's a lot of poisonous things, there's a lot of just aggressive things out there. There's snakes, there's like poisonous frogs, there's caterpillars that can kill you, like for real, just from touching them. There's just so many things that you need to be aware of that you don't want to be dealing with these issues later on. So it's just so much easier, so much safer, so much better, and so much smarter if you just pay attention to every single step you take. That sounds simple, but over a long time and walking through these forests, and you're walking all these kilometers or miles through these forests and these jungles, you're realizing is like, this is a very mentally tiring thing that you're doing, because you always like, yeah, I might be having conversations with people around me, but I'm still paying attention, like where's each one of these feet going? Where, if I'm like about to fall, where am I gonna put my hand? That for me was one of the more difficult endurance-based things that I had to deal with, is making sure that at all times you are alert and aware of your surroundings. Number two, moisture. Everybody's favorite word, right? Moisture, moisture, moisture. The reason I say moisture is because the jungle is technically a rainforest. So pretty much every single day it's raining. It's always wet, it's always humid, and it's normally hot. I, at least, was not used to dealing with that level of moisture, not only in the air, but also in everywhere else. Like every step you take, your feet are starting to get wet. Everything that you're doing is just wet. It's just, everything is wet all the time. You're gonna be drenched in sweat on top of being drenched in rain, on top of all those things. So you have to make sure all the clothing that you have and all the materials that you bring out are either waterproof or okay with water, like water wicking. So from my underwear all the way through my socks, through my shirts, through my pants, I made sure that all the things that I was wearing at all times were wicking or waterproof. The guys, the survivalists out there, or I should say Megan mostly, taught us this way of being able to deal with wetness while you are in the jungle, so that your skin doesn't pretty much just like decompose while you're there over long periods of time, is you have to have a wet sack and a dry sack, or I should say wet clothes and dry clothes. And the way that you would do it actually is you have to have what this is called a dry bag. This dry bag, what you do is you pretty much put anything inside of this that you want. It's just a regular bag. It feels like it's made out of like nylon or something like that. And then you put whatever you want here. You put your dry clothes in here for during the day while you're hiking or getting through the jungle, doing whatever you're doing. You put them in here, you close it up. What you do is you to keep it dry, you have to wind it up. And then after it's all wound up, you clip it together. So that makes it so that it doesn't unwind, number one. Number two, there's almost physically impossible for any water to get in something that is wound up like that. So that's why it's called a dry bag. There's no water gonna get through here, and there's also no water gonna get through the opening because of the way that you closed it. Now this is super important, because every single night after we go through hiking through the mud and the rain and all these kind of things, and you need to sleep, you should not sleep in your wet clothes, because that's how you get infections. That's how your skin starts to have issues or fungi or things like that. You have to do everything you can to have time during the day or time during the night that your skin is dry. So every single night, what you do is you take off your wet clothes, you figure out a way to hang them up and let them attempt to dry in the ridiculous humidity that there is. They're never gonna dry. They never did dry. But your dry clothes can stay dry, because what you do is you get into your hammock or your tent and you change into these right before you go to sleep. So that's just a strategy that you have to implement to be able to have time away from the moisture for your skin to be able to heal and to be able to fight off any of these infections or fungi or anything like that. That system was so hard to implement for me. Can you imagine trying to change your clothes in a hammock? Because there's no bathroom, and you can't really keep your feet on the ground. Like, it just was a whole thing we'll get into next time when it comes to dealing with the hammocks. But making sure that you have that dry kit of clothes is absolutely essential. And having dry bags to be able to keep all the things that need to be dry, you gotta have it, super important. And speaking of moisture, one other thing that you have to have is some kind of talcum powder or like dry powder. Another thing that Megan taught me, super important, is that like for your feet, for your pretty much every crevice on your body, when it's time for bed and you're ready to be in the dry space, you need to put this kind of powder in all your crevices because this helps dry out everything. Now, you can get, it's very basic. Like we bought some of it like while we were in small towns in Brazil. Some people brought it from wherever they were, the States or Europe or anything like that. But it's just basic talcum powder. All your crevices and all the spaces that can gather moisture, you should put this in because this will make your life significantly better and help you avoid, like I was saying, infections or fungal things and all the stuff you don't want to deal with. So highly recommend it. You gotta have it. All right, and speaking of feet, it's really important to make sure that you take care of your feet. So what we have here are some jungle boots. This is one thing I'd say do not slack on the expense for. Make sure you get really, really, really good jungle boots. Now, as you can see, like right here, there's drainage that we have that this is pretty much, these are gonna fill with water. Like you're gonna be walking in mud, you're gonna be walking in like swamp-like places. Your feet are gonna get wet. I put more effort towards not getting my feet wet than anybody else on the cast or crew. Feet still got wet, doesn't matter, you're in the jungle, that's what's gonna happen. So when you're walking, I actually enjoyed it because like every time your feet get full of water, these little things, the water will like squirt out of your boot. So you have like a constant rotation of water that's coming in and out of your boot while you're walking, which really sucks to have feet that wet. But having a boot that's ready for it, instead of trying to wear one of those boots that like blocks all the moisture out of your boot, like you're gonna, no, regardless of what kind of boot it is, there's gonna get moisture is gonna get in there, and it's better to have the water coming in and out than having water be stagnant against your feet, because the stagnant water against your feet is gonna be more corrosive. It's gonna be worse for that infection kind of stuff like we were talking about, and having this fresh water that can be cool at least coming in and out will be better for your feet longer term. And having a boot that can support that is also very flexible, so that when you're walking, it's not gonna like mess you up. That makes things significantly better. And speaking of boots, one other thing that's really important is that you need to have moleskin or something similar to that, because one thing that happens is that you get what is called hot spots on your feet. And that is just places of friction while you're walking that are no fun at all. Like my hot spots were like right about here on my feet, and then on the outside of my shoe right here. And some people got them back here too. And they're called hot spots because they feel like your foot has a spot that's hotter than everywhere else. You need to be very cognizant of them. You need to be paying very close attention to them and taking care of your feet throughout the entire time you're in the jungle. Every night you need to be looking at your feet, you need to be examining to make sure that they're okay, you don't have cracks, you're not bleeding. You have to be watching your feet. I actually made a mistake of not paying as close enough attention to my feet as I should have, and I got a small fungal infection in my left foot. That was not fun. I promise you that's not fun. Having something like moleskin is what allows you to be able to cover your foot in a space where there is a hot spot or there's high friction, so that you don't rub off your skin and then have a bigger problem than you would have otherwise. So, talking again about moisture, one other thing that is really important is hydration, and making sure that even though it's very wet and it's raining and all that, you have to make sure you're drinking, just because it's hot and your body is going to overheat and you need to take care of your body. So what's really important is having something like water bottles. So this is a filter water bottle that's really, really important. To have something like this is a very big deal. It makes it so that every water source around you becomes a viable water source. I drank every kind of water known to man in this, and it was, I should have been scared to drink some of it, but after the first few drinks of the river, when it wasn't that much of a choice, this was it, man. Like having this filter, I didn't get sick one time from any kind of like stomach illness or anything like that. Having a really high quality water filter bottle is the absolute truth, and I could not recommend it highly enough. Now the problem with one of these filters though, is that this bottle, as you can see, a lot of it is the filter itself. So it can't hold that much water. So what I did is I created a system where I would be able to keep more water with me than just this. I would just have a separate, as you guys saw, water bottle that would carry a lot more water in it that I could just pour into this and then drink through the filter from this. So I would have two water bottles, one just holding a large volume of water, as well as one that is filtering that water, so that at all times I can maintain my hydration and not have any issues from it. So that's one thing I did not have problems with because of this system, is that I always had water and I was always good to go. All right, so the next thing is that you have to deal with a lot of things at night. You don't want to, but in the jungle, that's something that's gonna happen. The sun obviously goes down, you're under a canopy, so it actually gets darker in the jungle before the sun sets. Having good awareness at night and being able to see at night is really important. So what you need is a headlamp. Now, this headlamp actually is not the type that I would recommend. The only reason I'm showing this one to you is because you need to have a headlamp that has obviously a strap on it. I like this headlamp for personally for drone work because it uses a 1 AA battery and is very simple and very bright. It's a really good light, but I would not bring this one to the jungle. Now, the reason for that is because the jungle is also known for having all the bugs ever. And a headlamp like this one will make you into a target. I experienced that the hard way by using one of the other headlamps that has multiple colors to the light and putting on the white light, and it just immediately is like, phew. You just get it's just like you just get attacked immediately as soon as you turn it on, and it's just not fun. So instead, what you need to have are the headlamps that have multiple colors, mainly the color red. That is the best color because for some reason bugs don't really see the color red, and our eyes do work in the color red. So you can have a bright red light, you can go through and do all the things you need to do, you can see what's going on, it's on your head so you can still have access to your hands, you can still see the ground so you can still be paying attention with that mentality I was talking about earlier, where your feet and where your hands are going, and you can deal with whatever you need to deal with without being swarmed by bugs. So it's very important to get a headlamp that has the settings to be able to have that red light on it, but also does have the white light for other instances or other uses. So like I said, this one's not the one, but I wanted you to make sure you saw that this is what it is because I actually lost the last one that I had in the very last day in the jungle. Good time to lose it, but I'm sad I did. Either way, headlamp is super crucial. And last but not least, everybody's favorite thing that is blatantly obvious that I brought to the jungle. It is the hat, man. It's the hat. You gotta have good headwear in the jungle because number one, this hat, let me just tell you guys, I love this hat. And the reason I love this hat is because number one, it is all ventilated. So this whole entire top of it right here, I'm getting air. I'm getting airflow. It makes my head happy. It makes me happy. It protects my head from the bugs. And it also isn't reflecting light up upon me into my eyes. Everything on the bottom of this is black. So if there's any light reflecting from water or from anything like that, it's not gonna be reflecting off my hat into my eyes. And it looks really cool, and it just makes me feel really safe and feels good. And it's protecting my neck, my head, the back of my neck, everything from the sun, because just because you're in the jungle doesn't mean you're always under the canopy, and you just need to make sure that you're protecting your skin. That's very, very important, and this is my way of doing it. I love it, it's the best, this is my hat, and I love my hat. And if you guys noticed that in episode 2, there was another hat that I was wearing that I'm even scared to ask for right now. I had a different hat from this one because if you noticed in the episodes before it, I was being absolutely devastated from bugs while I was trying to fly drones. And for me, that's not a good look. I needed to be able to make sure I was able to do my work with my 2 hands without having to fight bugs the whole time that are getting in my face and my glasses and my eyes. So I got another hat. This is a bug net hat. It's very funny. People will make fun of you for this. I don't care. This hat ain't about pride. That's not what this is about. This hat is about utility. Did I have any issues with bugs when I was wearing this hat? No, I did not. No, I did not. This thing right here, there's a drawstring on the bottom for your neck. Oh, look at that. Ain't no problems. Like, you put this thing on, make sure there's no bugs inside of it when you put it on, you're good to go. You still got the good ventilation up top. You got ventilation 360. You can still see, and as you can see on camera, I can still be seen. You can see everything about you. You can see my smile, you can see my eyes. So it literally doesn't stop you from doing anything besides eating. That's it. Only thing it stops you from doing is eating and probably having any kind of self-confidence in what you look like. When the bugs are that strong, it doesn't matter. When there's that many bugs, it doesn't matter. Rock the hat, don't care. Own what you don't want to have to deal with, and you gotta, when the bugs get that bad, what's pride anyway? All right, so thank you guys. Thanks for checking out part 1. In part 2, I will talk a little bit more about the clothing that I was wearing. I'll talk about the way that we would sleep and what kind of things we had to deal with to be able to be comfortable at night, and how we set up our tents, how we set up our hammocks. I'm probably not gonna go through the entire thing setting up the hammock, but I'll show you what we had, and I'll show you why it worked well in the jungle, because there's a lot of things to consider in doing that. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you guys check out the episodes of the Curse of Akakor.